Thank you for joining us today for an online lecture hosted by the National Personnel Authority. I am Maeda, Director, International Affairs Division, National Personnel Authority, Japan, and I will serve as a moderator. Before opening the session, we would like to give you some housekeeping. This lecture will be delivered in Japanese and English with simultaneous interpretation. Both English and Japanese versions of the presentations materials are available and can be downloaded from the bottom of the viewing page. Today's topic will be the digital human resource management in the Danish government. Denmark is known as a digitally advanced country, having been ranked first in the United Nations e-government ranking for 2 consecutive terms. And their life cycle and their human resource of the staff have been well managed by their digital human resource management. Today, we are pleased to welcome Mr. Thomas Du, who is in charge of human resource policy at the Danish Public Finance and Administration Agency, to talk about how they are using digital tools for human resource management. And Mr. Du is joining us from Denmark. Today's lecture will last approximately 1 hour until 7 p.m. Following the lecture, there will be a question and answer period, and you can submit your questions using the Q&A form on the viewing page. The questions can be submitted in either English or Japanese. For those questions submitted, we will introduce them one by one, along with those submitted during the registrations as time permits. Then, Mr. Du, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for speaking to you today. I'm Mr. Thomas Du, and I'm working here at the Agency of Finance and Public Management. It's part of the Ministry of Finance. I've been here for 11 years, and actually it's a very long time in Denmark because it's very common to change job between 3 and 5 years of employment. I mostly work with our digital business of the human resource process and with our performance and development system. And now I'm gonna speak to you about our digital human resource processes. First, I give you a brief introduction to the Danish public sector. Denmark is one of the smallest countries in Europe. We are about 6 million people in Denmark. Our capital is Copenhagen, and we are about well over 500,000 people in Copenhagen. So compared to Tokyo, we are a very little country. Our public sector is divided in 3 parts. We got the state, and the state handles cross-national tasks like the police and the defense, the taxations, and universities, and so on. Then we have the 5 regions, as you can see here at the slide. And the regions tasks there primarily our hospitals and healthcare. And then we got the municipalities who's taking care of the daycare and our public schools and elder care and so on. In the state, we are about 2,000 institutions, and about 160 of them are what we call central governmental institutions. And it's those institutions who use our digital tools, digital systems, when they do their human resource process too. We are about 195 employees in the state in Denmark. So here you see our ministers in the current government. Right now we have 23 ministers. The number varies according how many parties we have in the government. And right now we have 3 parties in the government. And under each minister, there's a department, and there are some agency and some institutions. And I'm working in the Minister of Finance, so we are part of there. And then let's look about the Minister group. We have a department, the Minister of Finance department, and we have 4 agencies. We have the agency YIM, the Agency for Public Finance and Management. Our key task is the state accounts, We have some governmental procurement programs, and then we have the administrative systems for human resource, accounting, finance, and they're used by approximately 160 state institutions. And then we have a shared service for the Ministry of Finance of Facility, Finance and Human Resource, and that's where I am. Then we have the Danish Employee and Competence Agency. It's like the NPA in Japan. They handle the collective agreements negotiations and all the tasks about them. And then we have two shared service centers. We have one for the government IT service, and then are doing operating our IT support and our computers and so on. So I think in common for our ministry is that we are working to get the states as efficient as possible, and yeah, so that's what we have in common. And if we look at about over the Agency of Finance and the public management, we can see that our strategy is to minimize the resources used for administration and management. And one of those things we do, it's the digital solutions to minimize the time used for administration. But we are only not going to minimize time used for administration. We're also gonna increase the level of the service. So we're gonna do it smarter, and we're gonna do it better. And I think it's important to say when we are talking about the digitization that we have to do it efficiently, but we have to do it with a good user experience too. I think this is a common way of looking about the human resource process, and it's the same way we're looking at them when we're gonna talk about the digitize them. So first of all, if you want to attract the people, you have to do some employer branding. And right now, the employer branding is a local thing on the local websites. So each ministry and each institution are branding themselves. Then you have to attract the people, our new candidates, and you have to engage them and select them. So you have to recruitment, and there we have our digital recruitment solution. And when they are recruited, you have to onboard them, and you have to make them perform, and you have to make them learn and development while they're employed at you. And then you have to pay some salary when they're employed, and there's some administration when they are employed too. So we have a digital recruitment solution. We have our talent management platform. We have our administration system, and then we have our own self-development salary system. This is not the most easy, simple slide in the world, but I think it shows our strategy over the solutions and how we try to integrate the systems. We don't have one huge system that can do anything for us. We could use SAP. SAP is a huge system that can do administration, human resource, finance, so on. We have chosen to have several systems, and then we try to integrate them together. In the middle, you can see we have our administration system. It's the core data system of our administrative human systems. And it's here where we create all employees. And so we have the data here. So when we create an employee in the system, we can use the master data in the other system. So we don't have to fill in the same data twice or third in the systems. And that's what we're working and are focusing on now, to integrate the systems more and more so we can use data from one system to another system. So let's talk about how we do our branding in the Agency for Public Finance and Management. I think in Denmark, it's more and more important for those who seek a job that the values and the purpose are the right thing for them. So we're trying to show how we are and that we're a good workplace. We have our values on our website. Our value is that we are listening, we are curious, and we are take responsibility. So that's our values, and we try to show them in our branding. And then we have some videos with our employees telling how it is to be here and what they learn when they are here. We are approximately getting 176 new employees annually. So we have to attract the people all the time. In Denmark, you're changing job very often in these years. So we have to employ new employees, get new employees very fast. So when we're talking about the recruitment in Denmark, if you want a job in the public sector or in the private sector, you are sending an application. And I think both in the public sector and the private sector today, you're doing it in a recruitment system. So here you can see our recruitment system. We are taking all the process is in the recruitment system. And if you want to seek a job at us, you're gonna fill out application. You can see it in the right side of the screen. You're gonna have your application, and you're gonna have your CV, and then you attach it to the system, and you write who you are, your name. Actually, you write your name, your email, and your phone number, and then you send in the application. And then we can see all the applications in the system, and the assessment committee, they can read it in the system at their laptop or in their tablet, and they can assess the applications in the system. So we can take the whole process of recruitment in the system, and we can invite people for interviews in the system too. So we don't have to print out applications today. So, and then we have a lot of data in the recruitment systems that we can use eventually for automation, because it's the first system where we create data for the new employee. And then when we have recruited the new employee, we're gonna create them in our administration system. It's an Oracle-based human resource system. It's a core system that I said, and we're just gonna fill in some forms so we have the right data, and we're gonna help the human resource staff are helped filling in the right forms, the right data in the forms, so we secure that we have all the data. The system is integrated to our payroll system and to our talent management system called Campus, and it's integrated to the Agency of Governmental IT Service. So when we create a new employee here in the system, we automatically will get an email and a user number. So we try to integrate the systems. And it's also integrated to our security number. We have a social security system, so we can see that we have the right people. It's the right people that we are employing. Then, when we have them onboarded, we have them in the system, we're gonna onboard them. So we onboard them in our talent management system. In Denmark, we call it Campus. It's a cornerstone system, American system. And we're using it for the onboarding of the new people. Onboarding means that before they start the first day of the new job, they can do some training and so have some information about how it is at their new workplace. When we use the system for e-learning, we had a lot of e-learning in the system, so you can just take the e-learning when you need it. We have attendant courses, so where you can just sign in for a course. And so we administrate the courses in the system, and we can see how many people are there at the course. And we can invite people for the courses. If we need to invite a lot of people for a course or some e-learning, we could just push it out to the employees. And then we have the development plans. You can see my development plan here at the screen. I have 4 goals in my plan, and I'm using it when I'm speaking to my boss at our one-on-ones or our check-ins. We do it every month, half an hour, where we talk about how it's going, and we look about my development plan, and we talk about, okay, am I succeeding with my development plan, or do we need to change anything in the plan? So once a year, we have a performance review of all our employees and all our leaders too, our managers too. And the manager or the leader's leader is reviewing the employees about their performance. How has it been the year? How are their performance? And then we have some salary negotiations too. It's the same process. So we have those 2 things in the same process. We have an in-house developed system to the performance review, where the leaders are filling in the data. And then we have a business intelligence solution where we talk about the data, where we can see it and display the data. So we have data about the performance, and we have data about the salary negotiations, and we have data about if we have any critical resource that we have to make not that critical, and if we have a leadership potential. So we have in the system, we can see the leadership pipeline in the organization. The managers can see those data, and the executive board can see the data too. So we have all the data at the manager level and at the executive board level. So we can see the data from the whole institution there too. And then we do some employee satisfaction surveys and some leader assessments. When you start here in the Ministry of Finance or any of our agencies, you get an onboarding survey after about 3 months of employment. It's because we like to see how has your onboarding been? How was your first day? Did you talk with your new boss the first day? How was your start? Because we want to do the onboarding the right way, and we want to see if we're gonna change anything about the onboarding, and so we can do that better in the future. Then we have once a year, we have a satisfaction survey. We do that. All the employees get a survey, how satisfied they are in their job, and they answer that. And then we are talking about it in the office. I'm talking about my office satisfaction survey with my boss and my colleagues. And our managers and our top leaders in the executive board, they can see the data too. And that's also shown displayed in a business intelligence solutions. So they can see the data from the whole institution or organization, and they can see it in each office, how it is. We also do a leader assessment survey every year because we help the leaders to develop it, so they can see where do I have to develop my leadership, and where I'm a good leader and where can I be better as a leader. And then if you resign from our office, then you get a resignation survey. And there we are asking, how were your time at the job? Why are you leaving our job? Could we done anything else to keep you in the job? So we want to get some information about how it was to be employed here and what we could do better. And all the surveys, we are showing them in our business intelligence solutions. So we have the data, we can see the data, and we can use the data across the organization. Up in the top here at the screen, you can see it's our satisfaction survey. You can see it has been sent out to 385 people. There are 333 people that have answered the survey. So we have the data about how it is, and you can see in the middle, we can see the level, how they have used the score when they have answered the survey. In Denmark, we're using a lot of time of those surveys, and we're using them when we have made the surveys. We talk about them in the office with the manager. That's typical Danish way to do it. Then we have a system of our time recording. All the employees that are filling in the time registration, we're doing it every day, and then we do it for the whole month. At the end of the month, the manager approved our registration and said, "Yeah, I can see. Okay, Thomas have used that time for those tasks. It's okay." And we use it to keep track on our overtime, how many hours have been working over, how we're using to data about our holidays, how many holidays have our left, and we can see the absence time and the sickness leave in the system. So we're using it to see how many days have I been in work and how many days have been sick, or have my child getting sick. And we can use it for see, okay, those tasks, our performance tasks, example is how many hours I've used on that task. Here, data, we're transferring the data to the business solution too, and we're transferring the sickness absence data to the Agency of Public Finance and Management because they're using it for national statistics. So here you can see the employee, they are filling it in themselves, but the leader are gonna approve the data every month. Here, it's our business intelligence tool. All the leader has access to that tool, and the executive board have access to it too. The leaders can see all the data, their financial data in their office, and they can see the human resource data in their office. So they can see their economy, they can see their sick leave, how many days have my employees been sick. They can see the vacation, how many days left have they at the vacation, so they can plan the vacation. And they can see hours of extra work, how many hours are my employees working, and are there something I should take care of there. And they can see the staffing, how many employees are there in their office right now. And then you can see the compliance, and compliance here is have they checked their in-time registrations and then improve them in the month. And then we can see the sick leave, how is it increasing or is it going down, sick leave? So we can see, oh, are there anything we have to do about the sick leave? to get it down if it's too high. And we can see here in the center of the slide, we have Corona in the first 3 months. So in 22, so the sick leave was very high level in that time, and then it's been falling after that. So here, another thing about how we're working with our digital processes. We have a system where all our decision presentation and actually all my work, if I write anything, I'm doing in this system. So it's a system where we are journalizing all our things so we can see them again. And it's a system where we make all our presentations and our decision presentations. And we are sending our decisions to our top leaders and in our executive boards in the system. So there are workflow in the system where first my team leader will check it and say that's okay. Then my manager will check it, and then our COO will check it and say it's okay. And finally, our CIO will check it. And they do it in the system. We don't print decision cases anymore. We just send it in the system, and they are checking it, the cases, decision cases at their laptops or their tablets. So for the executive boards, it's much more easier too now to see all their decision presentations. And as an employee, I don't have to print all of the presentations or print anymore. Actually, I don't use the printer that much. Maybe once a month, once a second month today, because all my things are digital. So it's a way that we have done it efficiently too, not only the human resource process, but also the process and the decision presentation process. I think it was what I had today here. I think it's time for question now.
トーマスさん、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. So it was very interesting to hear about the Danish government's efforts to utilize digital tools for human resource management, and I was able to see many concrete examples. Then we have received many questions, so I would like to start the Q&A session. First is about system integration. I would like to ask you about system integration. You have multiple systems, and then you keep them while you want to centrally manage the data. That's the strategy. And then, but how much time and how much money you spend to get to that situation? And then what is the final state that you would like to achieve in terms of system and data integration in the future?
Yeah, I think it's not cheap to get where we are. I think if you say how much time we have spent, I think we have used years of getting where we are now. I think the first system, it's 20 years old. So we have spent a lot of years to getting it. I think the last system we have, our administration system, it's the last one we have implemented. I think it took about 5 years to implement from we had the idea to it was implemented to the 160 institutions. So, and it's very expensive, but it's expensive too not to have the digital solutions. So there. And about where we would like to be at our integrations, I think it could be cool to get there where we don't have to fill in the same data. We can just check the data. For example, from the recruitment system, where we have a lot of data about the manager, about the organization data, the new employee. Right now, we are filling in the same data in both the recruitment system and the administration system. And I would like to be there where we're not filling in data, but we're just checking that data have been filled in. And then we have automatized a lot of the processes. Yeah.
なるほど。ありがとうございました。また、それと関連してなんですけれども、複数のシステムが残っている中で、データを不詳横断で統一的に管理するのはかなりの
So you have several systems, and I believe it has about a lot of difficulty combining combining those multiple systems together. So could you tell us about that challenge?
Yeah, I think the challenge is always to combine system or integrate systems because our system are different systems. So that's always the difficult part when we have our strategy, that we have different systems. That's why some people using SAP, that it's the same system, and you have a lot of different models in the same system. But if you have one system, you're gonna change the whole system if you want a new system. So we have the other way of doing it. We have several systems that we try to integrate, but it is difficult. It is. So I think it's a downside of our strategy. That is, it's always difficult and expensive to integrate the systems.
Regarding the system, so you keep the existing systems while you centrally manage the data itself. That's your strategy. What are the merits and the demerits of keeping different systems while managing the data centrally?
Yeah, I think, but we have our systems are a system that they use in the 160 governmental institutions. So they are cross-institutional systems. We are using the same system in all those 160 institutions. So we are having the data from the institutions, but the institution have the data themselves. So we're just displaying this data in the systems. So we run the systems for the institutions, but they use the systems.
So do you feel any shortcomings or demerits or like drawbacks of having different data? Do you see some negative things about having many systems?
I think the negative thing is that you have to integrate them. So you have to make sure that the integrations are working. And it's sometimes difficult to integrate the systems because you have different companies making those systems. I think it's a downside from that. It's more flexible, but you have to combine them and integrate them, and that's a downside.
では、このデジタル化に着手したところなんです。
So how you started this digitalization, how did you start it in the first place? In what area did you start?
I think we started, that's years ago, before I was employed here. We started with our salary system, I think, many years ago. I think it's in our accounting financial systems. That's 20 years ago, I think. We started there. And then we had our recruitment system for about 10 years ago. And we have our talent system also, 15 years ago. And then the latest system we have here is our administration system. So we have doing our digitization of the process for over a long decade of years. If we should start today, I might be starting with our administration system because it's a core system. Maybe that would be more easy to do, and then you have the data, then you can do all the other process, and digitize them. I think recruitment is for us one of the easiest way to do it because it's so much more efficiently to do it digital than if you should do it by mail and in paper. So that's another way of thinking. Whereas what's the process is the worst process today manually, and where can we have the best business case in that process? It's another way of thinking to start there, where you have the best business case.
Using
digital tools for HR management. By doing that, what kind of benefit was provided to the managers and then the employees themselves? And then how are the benefits evaluated in your system?
Yeah, I think the benefits is that it's so much easier to have a digital tool supporting your process than not having a digital tool. So for the human resource members, it's so much easier to do their tasks in the system that if you don't have a system. For the managers, they have the data. If it's in a digital system, they can see the data over their employees. They couldn't see the data if we haven't digitalized the process and we didn't use a digital system to do the human resource process. So I think that's a benefit for them, that they can see data about their employees. And from the employees outside of the human resource department, it's just more easy for them too. It's much more easy to apply a job. If you have a recruitment system, you can apply a job from your smartphone. I think it's important today in Denmark. If it's too difficult to apply a job, I just apply another job because there are so many jobs to choose today. So it has to be very easy to do.
So in order to utilize the data efficiently, the analyzing of data and the capability of analyzing the data and the communication with the colleagues are very important. So for the management people, what kind of training are you providing in order to make them more capable of analyzing the data and being able to communicate with their subordinates?
Yeah, I think actually we don't have any training for the managers or leaders in analyzing the data. We're helping the leaders if they have problem with their data and to see the data, and we look at the data too. And if we can see a problem in the data, we just talk with the manager about what they can do and what we can see in the data. So I think the managers have a high level of seeing data when they're hired. So I don't think we had need to train them in analyzing the data. I think they are well when they're starting as managers to look at the data. But if they have any problems, we help them. We don't train them specially in the data.
That means at your agency, you analyze HR data and then you propose. So do you, in your agency, is that your department which analyze the data and then propose some improvement ideas based on the data? Is that your department responsible for that?
Yeah, that's we're doing from the Minister of Finance. In the Minister of Finance, my office, the Human Resource Group office, we are looking at the data, and if there's anything we look at to say, oh, we need to do something, we just contact the managers. But the executive board and the CIO is looking at the data too, so they can also look at the data and say, oh, we need to do anything. But we're not looking for data for the whole governmental institutions. We're only looking at data from the Minister of Finance and the agencies below that.
Thank you. Regarding the data analysis, the actions of the high performers and based on those, the trend of those high performers, are you coming up with some kind of a program, or are you utilizing such data? So you come up with some creative programs, the human resource programs, or are you doing anything based on the findings that you get from the data analysis?
I think when we look about the high performers or the critical results, it's a part of our performance system. So we do the performance review. We are talking about are there any employees that they're performing extra well, and what can we do for them? We're doing the manager have to make a decision plan, has to make a plan for them too, like the employee gonna make a education plan or a development plan. Then the manager has a special task for those who are even critical or a high performer, so that we need to do some special to keep in the institution. So the responsibility is the managers, but we help them in the human resource department, and the top managers are looking at it too.
About work hours, analysis of work hours of the employees. So if someone does lots of overtime, I think that you analyze the reason why this particular person does lots of overtime. And based on that analysis, what kind of actions, countermeasures do you take? So if someone does too much overtime, and then do you hire people, or do you take some specific actions to tackle the issue of overtime?
Yeah, when we see or the manager can see that their employees are having a lot of overtime, they can see if it's okay that they have a lot of overtime, and then they can talk with the manager to say, hey, I have too many jobs in my office. You can see here, I have all my employees are working too much. So can I get another employee? or can I remove some tasks from my office? So it's the way we are looking at it when we have the overtime. Sometimes there are periods with a lot of work and they have a lot of overtime there, and maybe they can work less in some other periods. It's a way to do it. Or sometimes we need to say, okay, we have too many tasks. We have to cut off some tasks, or maybe we can have another employee in the office. And maybe you can just spread out the task in the office, because sometimes it's the same employee that have a lot of tasks and have a lot of overtime, while the other employees, their colleagues in the office, might work that much. So sometimes you can spread out the task in the office too. That could be a way too.
Thank you. Getting back to the systems, in the system, are there no, there are individual personal information. What about the privacy, and what about the security of the protection of the personal information? How are they protected? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, the security is extremely important because we have a lot of data about the personal and our employees. So they are secure in the system, and that's one of the most important things, that our system are secure. And that's why we're using the professional systems and not some self-development system for or Excel example. So we're doing that. Right now, we have a little bit difficulties with the cloud systems, because we can't remove the data from the EU, and some of the cloud servers are in the USA. So we have a problem with that in Denmark. And then we can't use that side of the system if their servers are in the in USA or outside Europe. So we have a extremely high focus on security, and that's important when we are digitalizing so much so much of our things and our processes. So that's extremely important for us, and we have dedicated employees working with that in the systems.
Okay, you have many tools to offer. But in terms of your users, you have users with the various ages, and then digital literacy level varies, right? And then do you do anything to promote the use of digital tools across different users with different background of literacy and age?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. I think one of the good things is that the digital level in Denmark, it's very high. So it's easier for us to use the digital tools. But of course, we have different ages, and yeah, the youth are normally more used to the digital tools. So we're training the people if they need anything to use the human resource tools. We're training them. And if we got a new tool, we make a lot of training in that time. And then I think, yes, some employees are better in the digital solutions than others. But if you're be able to do the human resource work today, you have to be able to use the digital tools. And that's a thing that will change when you do the digital human resource. Then it's not the human resource competence that you need to have. You need to have the digital competence too. So human resource in Denmark is much more about the digital knowledge and digital systems than only human resource knowledge today.
ブランディング活動の話があったんですけれど
So you
も、
talked about the branding activity.
集められた統一的なデータを用い
So those data integrated using those data.
PR 活動なんかは行っているんでしょうか。そのデー
So
タを元に
is it utilized based on the data? Are you doing any kind of promotion activities? Or do you have any examples of how you did any PR activity based on the analysis of the compiled data?
Oh yeah. I don't think we use data in our employer branding today. When we are branding ourselves, we're doing it at our website, and we're doing it sometimes we're out of the universities. But I don't think we use data to see where we are gonna brand ourselves. There are some companies who make some surveys about who's the best companies, who has the best brand. But right now, we're not a part of those surveys.
Ah, デジタルツールが発達していくと、テレ
So
ワーク
when digital tools advance, then it's easier for people to work from home, telework. And then I think telework is a really common thing in Denmark. But under such situations, how do you do HR management or appraisal of the people? Can you do the personnel appraisal or evaluation or management properly as you do face-to-face with a digital tool?
Yeah, it's right. We can go to our systems from anywhere. I could be in Japan and work in my systems, or I could be at home here in Copenhagen working at my systems. We had the Corona crisis, and it was a huge thing for us that we couldn't just work from home without any problems. But of course, if we are working home in a long time, it's more difficult to have the connection between the manager and the employee. But we can see, we can still do our things, so we can still see how it's going, or do we perform still. But we don't have data about how many human resource tasks has the number one employee or number two employee made. So it's a little bit more difficult to get the connection between the manager and the employee, but then they're gonna speak over the computer. We use Skype here in Denmark in the agencies. So I think it's the way we're doing it, and we still can see, okay, are they managed? Because we do our job from home or from wherever we are, and the leaders normally gonna check some of our jobs, some of our case decisions, and they can see it's they're doing it in the system too, so they can just see how we are performing too.
お話の中で、一
So
部
during your presentation, you said there are still some people who use papers. So what kind of work still uses paper, and what is the bottleneck that making that paperwork to digital?
Yeah, I think it's not that common that we're using paper. Of course, we are printing something, and printing some decision papers or some presentations. But I think if we're using paper or we have to use paper, it's maybe in the recruitment process where we still need to receive applications in paper. That's by law in Denmark that we need to do it. But if we do it and receive an application in paper, we first contact the candidate and ask, could you do it in the system? And if they can't do it in the system, we just fill it in the system for them. So we still have the data in the system too. So yeah, we use paper sometimes, but not that often. It's mostly digital things in Word or Excel or what we do.
Okay. So in recruitment, part of the process accept paper. So paper application is still possible in recruitment. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right. Because there are laws for that. So we need to be able to get paper applications. But then we will take the paper application and put it in the system. So it will be digitalized. When we receive it, we'll just make it digitalized and put it in the system. So we have all the application in a recruitment project. Even if it's from paper, we receive it from paper or receive it digital.
Thank
you very much.
で、
Today,
時間も迫ってまいりましたので、
you have
質疑
answered
応
many
答はこれで
questions.
終了とさせてい
We'd
ただ
like
き
to
たい
end
と思います。
the Q&A for now.
最後に、トーマスさんより皆様へのメッセージを頂戴で
We'd
きれ
like
ばと
to
思います。
ask Mr. Thomas to give us a message to us.
Mr. Thomas, your message, please. Closing message.
Okay, thank you.
Can you speak something to close this? Yes.
Yeah.
Just a few words. Thank you.
Okay, I would say thank you for speaking to you today. I hope you enjoy and get some information about how we are using the digital tools here in Denmark in our human resource process. And if you have anything, you can just ask if you need some more information. So thank you for today. Take care. Bye.
ありがとうございました。今日は講演を通じて計画的
Thank you
に
very much. So, through this presentation, he has shared with us that the digital tools are being well utilized in all aspects of human resource management. And also, even in data-based human resource management, communication between supervisors, subordinates, and colleagues is very important at the end of the day. So those thoughts are shared by Mr. Thomas. Then with that, I would like to conclude today's program. And this year, under the theme of National Public Service and Digitalization, we have introduced initiatives in Singapore, the Netherlands, and Denmark. The lectures are archived on the National Personal Authority's international channel on YouTube. The National Personal Authority of Japan will continue to provide up-to-date information on the latest personnel administration in different countries. Last but not least, we would appreciate your cooperation in filling out the questionnaire to help us plan future programs. Please click the button at the bottom of the page to answer the questionnaire. We look forward to seeing you again. This is the end of the program. Thank you very much.